The alarm blared through the hallways of Earth's orbital command center. Commander Alex Harlow ran his fingers through his short brown hair and stared at the massive screen. 12 alien ships had just appeared near Jupiter's orbit. They were unlike anything humans had ever built. Smooth, curved vessels that seemed to bend light around them. "Status report," Alex called out. His voice steady despite the chaos around him. Lieutenant Sam Donovan looked up from his console. "They're not responding to our signals, sir. But they're not attacking either, just waiting." It had been only 3 years since humanity had established its first Mars colony. Space travel was still new to them. They had never encountered alien life before today. Dr. Olivia West rushed into the command center, her lab coat fluttering behind her. "The President is online, Commander." The face of the United States President filled one section of the screen. Leaders from China, Russia, the European Union, and other major powers appeared in separate windows. They all looked worried. "Commander Harlow, what are we dealing with?" the President asked. "Unknown vessels, sir. Technology far beyond ours. We're attempting communication, but getting no response." That changed minutes later. Every screen on Earth, from military command centers to civilian phones, suddenly displayed the same image: a group of alien beings. They had slim bodies, large eyes, and skin that shimmered with a bluish tint. "People of Earth." The central figure spoke in perfect English. "We are the Galactic Alliance, a union of 12 species from across the stars. We have been watching your development for some time." At first, the aliens seemed friendly. They called themselves the Galactic Alliance, a group of advanced species that explored the galaxy together. They offered to share knowledge and technology. Many humans were excited about the possibilities. For 6 months, Alliance representatives visited Earth. They met with world leaders, scientists, and ordinary people. They learned about human culture and shared stories of their own worlds. But things began to change. "They keep asking about our wars," Sam said one evening as he reviewed data with Alex and Olivia. All of them: World War II, the Cold War, current conflicts. "They seem obsessed with our history of fighting." Olivia nodded. "And they were disturbed by our crime statistics. One of them asked me how humans can live knowing others might hurt them." The Alliance delegates began to withdraw. Their friendly meetings became formal and cold. Then, 3 months after first contact, they delivered their judgment. The main Alliance ship hovered over the United Nations building in New York. Inside, world leaders gathered to hear what the aliens had to say. Commander Harlow stood at the back of the room watching. The Alliance speaker, a tall being named Zoran, addressed the assembly. "We have studied your species carefully. You have achieved much in your short history. Your art is beautiful. Your scientific curiosity is admirable. But we have reached a consensus." The room grew silent. "Humanity is too violent, too unpredictable to join the galactic community. Your wars, your crimes against each other, your rapid weapons development, these things make you dangerous." Protests erupted across the room. The speaker raised a hand for silence. "We have seen species like yours before. They spread across stars quickly, bringing conflict wherever they go. We cannot allow this." The President stood up. "We're still learning, still growing as a civilization. You can't judge our entire species based on our past mistakes." "It is not just your past," Zoran replied. "It is your nature. You solve problems with violence too easily. You divide into groups and fight each other. Even now, as we speak, there are 47 armed conflicts happening on your planet." The speaker's eyes scanned the room. "The Alliance has made its decision. Humanity must remain contained until you evolve beyond your violent tendencies. We will establish a quarantine zone around your solar system. No human vessel will be permitted to leave." The news spread across Earth like wildfire. Humanity was being caged in their own solar system by aliens who judged them too dangerous. At first, people hoped it was temporary. Maybe in a few decades, the Alliance would return and see that humans had changed. But then came the second announcement. 2 weeks later, Alliance ships positioned themselves around Earth. Zoran's face appeared on screens worldwide again. "The Council has reviewed our initial decision. We have determined that containment is insufficient. The speed of human advancement presents a future risk that cannot be ignored. Alex felt his blood run cold as he listened. Humanity will evacuate the Sol system within 1 Earth year. You may take what you can carry to new homes, beyond Alliance space. Those who remain after the deadline will face elimination. The room erupted in outrage. Evacuation? Elimination? They were being exiled from their own home. "This is insane," Sam shouted. "We can't evacuate billions of people in a year. We don't even have ships to do it." Olivia's face had gone pale. "They're not giving us a choice, Sam. It's leave or die." Next months were the hardest in human history. Every nation, company, and research lab worked together to build colony ships. The Alliance provided star maps showing unclaimed systems far from their territory. They did not offer to help with the evacuation. Commander Harlow was put in charge of the evacuation effort. He worked day and night, coordinating the construction of massive ships that could carry thousands of people across the stars. "We can save maybe 10 million people," he told the Emergency World Council 6 months later. "Maybe 15 if we push the ships beyond safety limits. Out of 8 billion, the Chinese premier said quietly. The room fell silent as the reality sank in. A lottery system was established. Those with skills needed for colony survival received priority. Families were kept together where possible. But for most of humanity, there would be no escape. As the deadline approached, Dr. Olivia West made a discovery that filled her with rage. She burst into Alex's office one night, her eyes red from exhaustion. "The Alliance sabotaged us," she said, dropping data tablets on his desk. "Look at these engine designs they gave us. They're deliberately inefficient. They want our journey to be slow and difficult." Alex studied the information. "Are you sure?" "Positive. I compared their designs to theoretical models we were developing before they arrived. They gave us engines that will take decades to reach nearby stars, when their own ships can make the journey in days." The day of departure arrived with clear skies over Earth's launch sites. The great colony ships rose on pillars of flame, carrying the seeds of humanity to distant stars. From his command post on the flagship vessel, Defiance, Alex watched through view screens as Earth grew smaller. As the last ship cleared Earth's orbit, the Alliance fleet moved into position. Energy beams connected their ships, forming a net around the Sol system, a barrier no human would ever cross again. In the command center of the Defiance, surrounded by the sounds of quiet weeping, Commander Alex Harlow made a promise. "They think they've seen the last of us," he said to Sam and Olivia. "They think they know what humans are capable of, but they've made a mistake. We don't just fight wars. We survive, we adapt, and someday, we'll return." The colony fleet turned away from the sun and accelerated toward the unknown. Behind them, the homeworld of humanity faded to a tiny blue dot, and then was gone. 5 years had passed since the exodus from Earth. The human fleet moved slowly through the darkness of space. 12 massive ships carried the remains of humanity. 10 million people who had once called Earth home. Captain Ryan Frost stood on the bridge of the Defiance, the largest ship in the fleet. His blue uniform hung loose on his frame. Food was rationed and no one ate well anymore. "Captain, we're receiving reports of another fight in the civilian quarters," said security. Chief Kevin Reese. The tall, broad-shouldered man looked tired. Everyone did these days. Ryan sighed. What was it this time? Water rations. Some people think the engineering deck gets more than their share. These problems happened more often now. Hope was running low. They had visited 3 star systems, but found no planets that could support human life. Supplies were dwindling. Some people wanted to settle for a less-than-ideal world, while others insisted on finding a perfect new Earth. Deal with it fairly, Kevin. We can't afford to play favorites. Navigator. Lily Chen entered the bridge. Her small frame moved quickly as she approached the captain with excitement in her eyes. "Captain, I found something unusual," she said, bringing up a star map on the main screen. "Look at this system ahead. The scans show ruins of artificial structures on the 3rd planet." Ryan leaned forward. "Ruins? You mean a dead civilization?" Yes, sir. And the planet has breathable air and water. It's not perfect for farming, but we could live there. This was the first sign of another spacefaring species they had found. Even if the civilization was gone, their technology might still be useful. Set course immediately, Ryan ordered, and keep this quiet for now. I don't want to raise false hopes. 2 weeks later, the fleet reached the system. The ruins were real, vast cities of strange metal, now empty and silent. Teams went down to explore, wearing protective suits just in case. Ambassador Natalie Quinn led one of the research teams. She had been a professor of anthropology on Earth, studying ancient human cultures. Now she studied alien ones. These buildings are incredible, she told Ryan over the radio as her team explored. The technology is unlike anything we've seen, and look at this. Her camera showed a massive stone tablet covered in symbols. We think it's their writing, and we might be able to decode it. Some patterns match mathematical principles that should be universal. For the first time in years, excitement spread through the fleet. People worked day and night to understand the ruins and the lost civilization. Engineers studied strange machines. Scientists examined the alien writing. After a month of work, Natalie called an emergency meeting with the fleet's leadership. We've translated parts of their records, she said, her voice grim despite the achievement. They called themselves the Sirens. They were a peaceful species focused on art and science. What happened to them? Ryan asked. They were destroyed. By the same alliance that exiled us. The room fell silent. Natalie continued. According to their records, the alliance found them too unstable and creative for membership. The Sirens refused to be controlled, so they were eliminated. Just like they threatened to do to us, Kevin said quietly. Yes. But the Sirens left something behind. Instructions for building faster engines than the ones the Alliance gave us. They hoped someone would find them someday. This changed everything. With better engines, they could travel further and faster. They might find a true home beyond Alliance reach. While engineers worked to build the new engines, the fleet received another surprise. Their sensors detected an approaching ship, an Alliance vessel. It's smaller than their warships, Lily reported. Probably a science ship or scout. Ryan called Kevin to the bridge. We can't let them report our location. Prepare a boarding team. We need to capture that ship intact. Kevin assembled a small force of former soldiers and police officers. They used a modified shuttle to approach the Alliance vessel, using debris from the ruins as cover. The boarding was quick and successful. The Alliance crew, 6 aliens from 3 different species, were caught by surprise. No one was killed, but the aliens were locked away in secure quarters. The captured ship was a treasure. It contained star charts, communications equipment, and advanced technology. Best of all, it had Alliance identification codes that would let them move through space undetected. While studying the ship's data, Lily made another discovery. "Captain, look at this," she said, pointing to strange markings on a star chart. The Alliance has marked several species as exiled or contained, just like they did to us. Ryan studied the chart. Can we locate any of these other species? Yes. The closest is a planet about 2 months away with our new engines. The decision wasn't easy. Some wanted to avoid contact with any other species. Others argued they needed allies. In the end, the need for friends in a hostile galaxy won out. 2 months later, they reached the world of the Vaishi, tall, 4-armed beings with skin like tree bark. At first, the Vaishi were terrified of the human ships. They thought the Alliance had returned to finish them off. Ambassador Natalie Quinn led the first meeting, explaining that humans were exiles too. Slowly, trust grew between the species. Our crime was curiosity, the Vaishi leader told them. We asked too many questions about Alliance rule. We wanted to explore beyond our assigned territories. For this, they confined us to our homeworld and forbade us from building spacecraft. Ryan and Natalie learned more from the Vaishi. The Galactic Alliance wasn't a friendly coalition of equals, as they had first claimed. It was an empire ruled by fear. The Alliance fears species with what they call adaptive potential, explained the Vaishi scientist core. species that change quickly, that innovate and question. They fear you humans most of all because you adapt faster than any species they've encountered. This revelation changed how the humans saw their exile. It wasn't just cruelty, it was fear. The Alliance was afraid of what humanity might become. As they shared knowledge, the Veshi showed humans star charts of regions the Alliance rarely patrolled. Far from major trade routes lay a cluster of stars with several habitable worlds. We call it the Hidden Cluster, Core said. The Alliance avoids it because of unusual energy patterns that interfere with their sensors. It could be a safe haven. For the first time since leaving Earth, real hope spread through the fleet. They had faster engines, knowledge of safe territories, and now an ally. As they prepared to leave for the Hidden Cluster, Ryan stood with Natalie and Lily on the bridge of the Defiance. Through the viewport, they watched human and Veshi engineers working together on ship modifications. They cast us out because they feared what we might become, Ryan said quietly. Maybe it's time to show them their fears were justified. Natalie nodded. We're not just survivors anymore. We're the beginning of something new. The fleet departed. A week later, headed for the Hidden Cluster and a future of their own making. The first seeds of humanity's return to the stars had been planted. 25 years had passed since the human fleet found the Hidden Cluster. They named their new home Sanctuary, a system with 3 habitable planets. What began as a refugee camp had grown into a thriving civilization. Governor Paul Bennett stood at the window of his office looking out at New Hope City. The buildings were a mix of Earth-inspired designs and alien architecture. People walked the streets alongside Veshi and 2 other alien species who had joined them over the years. Paul was 58 now. He had been a young military officer during the Exodus. Now his hair was gray and his face was lined with wrinkles. He had seen humanity go from homeless wanderers to the leaders of a growing coalition. Governor, the council members are waiting, his assistant said from the doorway. Paul nodded and walked to the meeting room where representatives from the human colonies and their alien allies gathered. Each planet in the sanctuary system had its own government, but they came together for matters that affected them all. Let's begin, Paul said as he took his seat. Dr. Rodriguez, please share your report. Scientist Maya Rodriguez stood. She was in her 40s, born on Earth but raised on colony ships. She had spent her life studying alien technology. We've completed the reverse engineering of the Alliance vessel we captured 20 years ago, she said. The new drive systems are ready for installation in our fleet. They're twice as fast as our current engines. This was important news. Speed meant they could expand further, establish more colonies, and find more allies. Maya continued. We've also improved their weapons technology. Our defensive capabilities now exceed what the Alliance had when they exiled us. From the other side of the table, Defense Director Eric Sullivan nodded in approval. He was a large man with a stern face, who had dedicated his life to protecting the colonies. My teams have developed new battle tactics based on our strengths, Eric said. The Alliance relies on overwhelming force. They're not prepared for quick surgical strikes. We've trained our pilots to hit targets and disappear before the enemy can respond. Paul listened carefully. He didn't want war, but he knew they needed to be ready for one. The Alliance still ruled most of the galaxy. Sooner or later, they would discover what humanity had built here. Cultural liaison. Kate Martinez spoke next. She was responsible for relations with other species. The Jurians have formally asked to join our coalition. They were contained by the Alliance 500 years ago for developing artificial intelligence. That would make 4 exiled species in our group, Paul noted. 5, actually, Kate corrected him. I've been in contact with representatives of the Novan refugees. They were exiled just 10 years ago for challenging Alliance authority over their mineral rights. The meeting continued for hours as they discussed expansion plans, resource allocation, and defense strategies. What had begun as a desperate attempt to survive had evolved into something more, a true alternative to Alliance rule. After the meeting, Paul walked with Maya to the research center. It was a massive complex where human and alien scientists worked side by side. The Alliance made a mistake when they exiled us all, Maya said as they passed teams of researchers. They put together species with different strengths and perspectives, then gave us a common enemy, themselves. Paul smiled. Human creativity, Veshi mathematics, Ilorian biology, and Xanthi engineering. We solve problems faster together than any single species could alone. At the center of the facility sat a prototype ship unlike any built before. It combined technologies from all their allied species with innovations that were uniquely human. Is it ready? Paul asked. Maya nodded. The Phantom can travel through Alliance space completely undetected. Their sensors can't see it, and it leaves no trace, perfect for reconnaissance by and who's piloting it? Your son, actually. Captain Jeff Bennett volunteered. He's our best pilot. Paul felt pride mixed with worry. His son had been born in space during the long journey to Sanctuary. He had never seen Earth except in pictures and videos. Like many of the younger generation, Jeff viewed the Alliance with cold determination rather than the hot anger of their parents. 3 days later, the Phantom departed on its mission to map Alliance territories, gather intelligence, and assess their strengths and weaknesses. It was humanity's first step back into the wider galaxy since their exile. Weeks passed before the Phantom returned. The data it brought back changed everything. In an emergency session, Jeff Bennett showed the Council what he had found. The Alliance isn't as united as they want everyone to believe, he explained, displaying star maps showing fleet movements. At least 3 member species are considering breaking away. Their border patrols are stretched thin, and they've grown complacent. They don't expect threats from primitive species like us. More importantly, Jeff's mission had discovered something the Alliance wanted to keep secret. They had recently exiled another species, the Tauri, to a system not far from Sanctuary. Kate Martinez organized a rescue mission immediately. Human and Veshi ships traveled to the Tauri system, finding a civilization on the brink of collapse. The Alliance had damaged their planet's ecosystem as punishment for their defiance. The human fleet helped evacuate millions of Tauri to Sanctuary. In return, the Tauri shared their advanced knowledge of biological sciences and medicine. It was a pattern that had repeated with each new species. Everyone contributed their unique strengths to the growing coalition. 6 months later, disaster struck. An Alliance patrol discovered one of the smaller human colonies on the edge of the hidden cluster. The patrol consisted of 3 warships, each far larger than any vessel in the human fleet. Eric Sullivan deployed his rapid response force. 6 small, fast ships equipped with the new weapons Maya's team had developed. The battle lasted less than an hour. All 3 Alliance warships were destroyed before they could send a distress signal. For the first time, humanity had directly engaged the Alliance in battle, and won. In his office, Paul received the news with mixed feelings. We've crossed a line, he told Maya and Eric. We're no longer hiding, we're fighting back. Eric nodded grimly. It was inevitable. At least we struck the first blow on our terms. What happens now? Maya asked. Paul looked out at the city he had helped build. In 25 years, they had gone from homeless refugees to the center of a growing alliance of exiled species. They had built something the Alliance had never expected: unity through diversity. Now, Paul said, we prepare. The Alliance will learn of this eventually. When they come, they'll expect to find a ragtag group of survivors. Instead, they'll find a united front of species who are tired of living under their rule. He turned back to his friends and colleagues. They cast us out because they feared what humanity might become. It's time to show them exactly what that is. 75 years had passed since humanity found sanctuary. What began as a small colony had grown into the center of a powerful coalition called the Outcasts Pact. 7 different species worked together, sharing knowledge and resources across dozens of star systems. Admiral Jared Blackwood stood on the bridge of the Avenger, the largest warship ever built by human hands. At 62, he still had the sharp eyes and straight posture of a career military man. His dark skin contrasted with his short white hair. "Status report," he ordered. "All systems green, Admiral," replied his first officer. "The fleet is in Position. Below them, an Alliance mining station orbited a gas giant. The station extracted rare minerals used in Alliance starship engines. It was protected by a small security force, nothing that could stand against Jared's fleet. But they weren't here to attack, not directly. Begin Operation Shadow, Jared ordered. Small unmanned drones launched from the Avengers' bays. They slipped past the station's defenses undetected. Inside the station, they would install hidden devices that would cause the refining process to produce flawed materials that would cause Alliance engines to fail at random times. This was the nature of the shadow war humanity had been waging for years. They rarely engaged Alliance forces directly. Instead, they sabotaged facilities, disrupted supply lines, and spread confusion throughout Alliance territory. In her office on New Terra, the capital planet of Sanctuary, Intelligence Director Nicole Reed reviewed reports from her agents. She was a small woman with piercing blue eyes who controlled a vast network of spies. 15 more defections this month, she told Fleet Captain Daniel Warren, who sat across from her desk. Alliance citizens who want to join the outcasts. Daniel nodded. He was younger than most senior officers, only 45, but he had earned his position through daring raids that appeared as accidents to the Alliance. The rumors are working, he said. More Alliance citizens are questioning their leaders every day. Nicole had spent years spreading stories about Alliance corruption, about how the leadership lied to its own people. Most of those stories were true. Her agents had discovered that the Alliance was not the democratic coalition it claimed to be. We've identified the true power behind the Alliance, Nicole said, showing Daniel a secure file. They call themselves the Arconians. They're one of the founding species, but they've been secretly controlling everything for centuries. The file contained images of tall, gray-skinned beings with 4 arms and sharp features. They use the other species as puppets, Nicole continued. Most Alliance citizens don't even know who really gives the orders. This information was valuable. It meant they weren't fighting all 12 Alliance species. They were fighting one species that manipulated the others. At the Diplomatic Center, Diplomat Grace Porter met with representatives from disaffected Alliance worlds. She was tall and elegant with a calm voice that inspired trust. We don't wish to destroy the Alliance, she told them. We want to reform it. All species should have equal voice and equal rights. One representative, a reptilian being from the Drell homeworld, leaned forward. The Arconians have controlled our trade routes for generations, he said. They claim it's for security, but they take most of our resources and give little in return. Join us, Grace offered. The Outcast Pact treats all member species as equals. We share technology freely. We defend each other. These secret meetings happened regularly now. Grace had convinced 3 Alliance species to consider changing sides when the conflict finally became open. The Shadow War couldn't remain hidden forever. Alliance leaders knew someone was working against them, but they didn't know who. They blamed pirates, natural disasters, or internal saboteurs, never suspecting that the humans they had exiled had returned. In a secure meeting room, Admiral Blackwood gathered with the other Outcast leaders to discuss their next move. The Alliance is building a new shipyard in the Cygnus sector, he explained, showing holographic plans obtained by Nicole's spies. When completed, it will double their fleet production capacity. Can we sabotage it? Asked Daniel. Better, Jared replied. We can destroy it completely and make it look like an industrial accident. Their own design has flaws we can exploit. The mission would be the most ambitious attack yet. It would require perfect timing and coordination between multiple ships. If successful, it would cripple Alliance military production for years. Daniel volunteered to lead the operation personally. My team knows how to get in and out without being detected. We've done it before. 2 weeks later, Daniel's strike force approached the partially constructed shipyard. 6 small, fast ships that could slip past Alliance sensors. Their hulls were made with materials that absorbed scanner signals instead of reflecting them. Remember, Daniel told his crews, no direct weapons fire. We plant the charges at these key points, then leave. The explosion will look like a power core failure. The Operation went smoothly at first. The ships approached undetected. Teams deployed to place explosive devices at structural weak points. They were almost finished when an Alliance patrol appeared unexpectedly. "We've been spotted," reported one of Daniel's officers. Daniel made a quick decision. "Complete the mission. Set the charges for immediate detonation. We'll draw their fire while our people finish." His ship broke cover, drawing the Alliance patrol away from the shipyard. The other Outcast vessels finished placing their explosives, then joined the escape. 2 Outcast ships were damaged in the fighting, but all made it to safety. Behind them, the massive shipyard collapsed in a series of explosions that lit up space. Alliance communications filled with confused reports about a catastrophic power failure. When Daniel returned to Sanctuary, the victory was celebrated across all Outcast worlds, but it came with a price. The Alliance now knew someone was actively working against them. 3 days later, the Alliance High Council issued a formal declaration of war against an unknown enemy that threatened galactic stability. They didn't know who they were fighting yet, but the Shadow War had become an open conflict. In the command center on New Terra, Admiral Blackwood addressed the combined military leaders of the Outcasts Pact. "The time for hiding is over," he told them. "The Alliance has declared war against Shadows. Let's show them who they're really fighting." Across Outcast territory, shipyards that had operated in secret for decades accelerated production. Training centers filled with new recruits. Species that had once been victims of Alliance oppression prepared to fight for their freedom. Nicole's intelligence networks provided detailed information about Alliance fleet movements and weaknesses. Grace's diplomatic efforts ensured that some Alliance worlds would remain neutral or even provide covert support. As preparations for open war continued, Admiral Blackwood stood with Nicole, Grace, and Daniel on an observation deck overlooking the main fleet yards. Hundreds of warships were being readied for battle. 75 years ago, we were homeless refugees," Jared said quietly. "Now we command the most advanced fleet ever built." "The Alliance thought they were punishing us by casting us out," Nicole added. "Instead, they freed us to build something better than they ever could." The first major battle of the open war would begin soon. After decades of preparation, humanity and their allies were ready to challenge the power that had exiled them. The Alliance had created their own worst enemy. 100 years had passed since humanity was cast out from Earth. The war between the Outcasts Pact and the Galactic Alliance had raged for 25 years. What began as small skirmishes had grown into massive battles across hundreds of star systems. Supreme Commander Jake Harrison stood before the holographic map in the war room on New Terra. At 58, he had spent his entire life among the stars. Like most humans of his generation, he had never seen Earth except in old recordings. "The Arconians are falling back to their core systems," he said, pointing to red markers on the map. "They've lost control of the outer territories." Around the table sat the leaders of the Outcast forces, humans and their alien allies who had all suffered under Alliance rule. They had fought together for a common cause, freedom from Arconian control. "Their propaganda is failing," said Alliance expert Linda Carter. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a brilliant mind. She had studied the Alliance for decades, finding weaknesses in their political structure. 3 more member species have declared neutrality this week. They no longer believe the Arconians' lies. The war had changed when the Outcasts revealed the truth, that the Alliance was actually controlled by one species, the Arconians, who used the others as pawns. Many Alliance worlds had chosen to stop fighting once they learned they had been manipulated tactical genius. Frank Morgan zoomed in on a section of the map. He was a tall, thin man who could see patterns in battle that others missed. "The Arconian defense fleet is concentrated here, protecting their homeworld, their capital. Ships are powerful but slow to maneuver." "Can we break through?" Jake asked. Frank nodded. "Not with a direct assault, but I have another plan." He outlined a bold strategy that would use smaller, faster ships to draw the Arconian fleet out of position, creating a gap for a strike force to reach the capital. As they finalized the battle, Plan's first contact specialist Heather Davis entered the room. She had spent years building relationships with species inside Alliance territory. The Lurians and Ventari have confirmed they'll rise up when we attack. Their resistance forces are in place. This was crucial news. The Lurians controlled key shipyards, while the Ventari managed communications networks. Their support would create chaos within the Alliance at the perfect moment. Jake named the upcoming battle Operation Homecoming. It would be the largest military action in the war, possibly in galactic history. Over 2,000 ships from all 7 outcast species would participate. This isn't just about defeating the Arconians, Jake told his commanders. It's about ending their system of control and creating something better. 3 days later, the outcast fleet moved into position. The human ships formed the center of the formation, with their allies protecting the flanks. Each species had its role, using their unique strengths. Aboard his flagship, the Redemption, Jake gave the order to begin. All ships, commence Operation Homecoming. The battle unfolded exactly as Frank had predicted. The smaller outcast ships darted forward, drawing Arconian fire. They moved with incredible speed and precision, making themselves difficult targets, while causing maximum disruption. When the Arconian fleet adjusted to defend against this threat, it created an opening. Jake immediately ordered the main strike force forward. Strike group, move in. All ships, deploy quantum shields. The quantum shields were one of humanity's greatest innovations. Adaptive energy barriers that could change frequency to block any weapon. The Arconians had nothing that could penetrate them consistently. As the battle raged in space, Heather coordinated with resistance forces on Alliance worlds. Now, she transmitted to her contacts, begin your operations. Across dozens of planets, oppressed species rose up against Arconian control. They seized communication centers, disabled defense systems, and captured Arconian officials. The carefully planned rebellion spread like wildfire. Linda monitored Alliance communications, listening as their command structure broke down. It's working, she reported. Their coordination is failing. Individual fleet commanders are acting independently now. 6 hours into the battle, the outcast strike force broke through to the Arconian homeworld. Jake led a team to the surface, targeting the central control facility that managed the entire Alliance network. Inside the massive structure, they found the Arconian High Council, 12 gray-skinned beings who had ruled the galaxy from shadows for centuries. Surrender, Jake told them. Your empire is falling. The Arconian leader stood tall on 4 legs, looking down at Jake with contempt. You primitives cannot hope to rule what we have built. The galaxy needs our guidance. The galaxy needs freedom, Jake replied. Every species deserves to choose their own path, not follow one you force upon them. While Jake kept the council distracted, Linda accessed their central computer system. She found what they had been searching for, the controls to the quarantine barrier around Earth's solar system. With quick commands, she deactivated it. After a century of exile, the way home was finally open. News of the Arconian surrender spread quickly. Across the galaxy, celebrations erupted as species long oppressed by Alliance rule realized they were free. The war that had seemed impossible to win was over. In the following months, representatives from all species, former Alliance members and outcasts alike, gathered to form a new galactic community. Unlike the Alliance, this galactic federation would truly be based on equality and cooperation. 1 year after the final battle, Jake stood on the bridge of the first ship to enter the Sol system in a century. Earth grew larger in the view screen, a blue jewel that most humans had only heard stories about. It looks just like the old pictures, said Linda, standing beside him. It's more beautiful, Jake replied quietly. The return to Earth was emotional, for everyone. While most humans chose to remain in the colonies they had built, they sent representatives to re-establish contact with those who had been left behind. To their surprise, Earth had flourished in their absence. Free from Alliance interference, the remaining humans had rebuilt their civilization and healed much of the environmental damage from earlier centuries. 5 years after Operation Homecoming, Jake attended the first Galactic Federation Council, meeting on Earth. Representatives from 32 species gathered in a new structure built specifically for interstellar cooperation. As Jake looked out at the assembled delegates, he thought about the journey that had brought them here. Cast out from their home, humans had not only survived but thrived. They had built alliances, developed new technologies, and ultimately freed the galaxy from tyranny. The Arconian representative who had been chosen to speak for his reform society approached Jake after the meeting. "We were wrong about humanity," he admitted. "We saw your capacity for violence and feared it. We failed to see your greater capacity for cooperation and growth." Jake nodded. "Fear is a poor basis for judgment, and isolation is a poor solution to fear." Above them, ships from dozens of worlds moved through Earth's orbit, a symbol of the new era that had begun. Humans now served as mediators between species, using their adaptability to help bridge cultural differences. They had been cast out because the Arconians feared what humanity might become. In the end, humanity had become exactly what the galaxy needed, not conquerors but unifiers, not rulers through force, but leaders through example. A century of exile had transformed humanity from victims to victors, from refugees to rulers. Not through domination as the Arconians had ruled, but through cooperation, innovation, and an unbreakable spirit that could not be extinguished among the stars.